Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session, the last part of today's session. So, before the break, we were talking about the Khalistan movement, how India fought back and countered the movement, and how it was almost brought to an end in 1990s. Now, let us discuss the recent developments, the most important part for the exam. We are seeing an attempt to revive the Khalistan movement. It's been happening from 2010 onwards. An attempt to revive the dormant Khalistan movement. Why is it happening now? Who's behind it? What developments have happened? How is it affecting Indian interests? That is what we should study and understand. Yeah. So let us study the recent attempts being made to revive the dormant Khalistan movement. What signs have we noticed? Why is it happening? Who's behind it? That is something we should study. See, the Mumbai attacks carried out by Lashkar-e-Toiba was a turning point, as I told you. In this attack, the involvement of Pakistan was very clearly established. India's investigation, with some help from Western countries, clearly pinpointed Pakistani state involvement. Following this, India engaged in coercive diplomacy, putting a lot of diplomatic pressure on Pakistan, and this brought Pakistan under tremendous international pressure. Following the Mumbai attacks, the US, European countries, and even West Asian powers, Saudi Arabia and UAE, they gave full support to India. Following the Mumbai attacks, India's relations, the strategic ties, especially counter-terrorism relations with US, European countries, and Saudi Arabia and UAE, improved by a very big margin. They started working with India to counter the terrorist threat coming from Pakistan. Through UN and FATF, lot of pressure was exerted by India and other countries to curb Pakistan's terrorism against India, especially the usage of terror groups like Lashkar, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and others, through which Pakistan was targeting Indian cities and India's civilian population. India was very clear that this is the only time we will show restraint. We will use other methods to target Pakistan. We'll use diplomatic methods. We'll maybe use covert options, but we'll not go to war with Pakistan. This is the only time we'll show restraint. Next, if Pakistan repeats the same habit, the same behavior, if it continues using these groups to target our cities and civilian population, India will not hold back. India could strike back even with the risk of a war breaking out. So this is something that worried US especially and other countries as well. And these powers, they don't want a India-Pakistan war at any cost because both are nuclear armed rivals, right? It could derail their interests in the region, especially for US. Pakistani help was critical in Afghanistan. If Pakistan gets preoccupied with India in case of a conflict, then Americans will not get support from Pakistan to continue the war in Afghanistan. So these countries also put tremendous pressure on Pakistan following the Mumbai attacks. Because Lashkar had killed their citizens, targeted Americans, Europeans, and Jews as well. So as a result, there was tremendous international pressure built on Pakistan by India. Coercive diplomacy of India was working, giving results. This pressure forced Pakistan to adopt a new strategy. It could no longer use Lashkar, Jaish, and other terror groups to attack Indian cities and Indian civilian population. That's why after 2008, after Mumbai attacks, we haven't seen a major terror attack in India. Correct? In the last 13-15 years, India is largely free from urban terrorism. Cities like Mumbai, Delhi, major cities have not seen many major acts of terrorism. Indian civilians have not been targeted. It's not a coincidence. It's not that Pakistan changed its mind on its own. It became a good country. It's not that they have stopped their covert war. There's a reason behind it. The reason is India exerted tremendous international diplomatic pressure through diplomatic methods, covert methods, and foreign powers, international institutions. They have all targeted Pakistan, pressurized Pakistan, which forced Pakistan to change its strategy. That is why groups like Lashkar and Jaish have not carried out a major attack on a city or against our civilian population. Is that clear? So it does not mean that Pakistan has ended its secret war. Pakistan is continuing it, but in a different way. So since it was under pressure to not use Lashkar, to not use Jaish, to attack our cities and civilians, it adopted this new strategy. One, it has been using only Jaish-e-Mohammed, if you notice, to attack our military bases. This is one part of Pakistan's new strategy. Since there is tremendous pressure on Lashkar, which carried out the Mumbai attacks, there is pressure on Pakistan to not use Lashkar against India, not to hit our cities and civilians by using Lashkar. So instead, it's using Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is largely a Kashmir-centric group, which has support in Pakistan, and using Jaish-e-Mohammed to attack our military bases. That's why since 2014, there have been a series of attacks in India, but all of them are against military sites. There was an attack at Gurdaspur Army Camp, which is close to the border in Punjab. The Pathankot Air Base attack, it's a forward air base of Indian Air Force. This was also carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed. The Uri attacks, Pulwama attacks, and the recent incidents as well. So Pakistan has focused more on using Jaish-e-Mohammed to target military bases because then India will not get the same international support. Even if India retaliates, right, will not have the same sympathy and support because there is a difference between a civilian target and a military target. Understood? That is one strategy Pakistan has been using. It's not a miracle. It didn't happen on its own that cities have been spared and only military sites are being attacked. It's because of this international pressure, Pakistan has been forced to adopt this new strategy. So one strategy is to use Jaish-e-Mohammed to only target military bases near the border. Then other countries will look at this as a India-Pakistan border dispute. They will look at India as well because India would be responsible for securing the military bases. You can't then give an excuse that terror groups are targeting them, right? We will not get the same kind of support and sympathy. But if cities and civilians are hit, that is a different thing altogether. So this is one thing Pakistan has done, using Jaish to hit military bases. So that is one way of Pakistan continuing its war against India. Next, it has tried new strategies in Kashmir, which we will discuss later. It has tried stepping up violence in Kashmir. It has increased terror attacks in Kashmir. It has created more trouble, new challenges for India in Kashmir. That has been another new strategy. Along with that, the other tactic has been to revive Khalistan movement. Because here Pakistan will not face the same pressure. The pressure was mainly on not using Lashkar to target Indian cities, Indian civilians. So Pakistan has stopped doing that because of this international pressure exerted by India. Instead, it's adopting these new strategies and tactics. One, use only Jaish-e-Mohammed, not Lashkar-e-Toiba, to target military bases, instigate more violence, more instability in Kashmir, and try and revive the dormant Khalistan movement. That is why you are seeing a revival of Khalistan movement since 2010. This is part of the reason. Is that clear? Now, let me explain what kind of incidents have happened. What changes, what developments have we noticed? Especially in the diaspora, in Western countries, we have witnessed increased radicalization, particularly through social media. This is something we started noticing from 2010 itself. Is that clear? By now, the Sikh diaspora was more spread out. Back in 70s and 80s, they were largely limited to US, Canada, and West Europe. But now that is no longer the case. Apart from the diaspora having a strong presence in US, Canada, and Europe, today the Sikh diaspora is present in large numbers in Australia, in New Zealand, in Southeast Asia, even in West Asia, in UAE, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Thailand, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand. In all these countries, the Sikh diaspora has gone up. Sikh diaspora is not just limited to US, Canada, Europe anymore. They are more diversified, more spread out. And within sections of the diaspora, especially the younger crowd who were born after 1990s especially, they have been targeted on social media for radicalization. The dormant members who are hiding in these countries, they have been reactivated. Remember, I told you many Khalistani terrorists who are being hunted by India, they ran away from India, took shelter in Pakistan, in other countries. They changed their identities as well, and they became normal people. But once the support started from Pakistan again, and once social media became more influential, these dormant elements have been reactivated to target the younger members of the diaspora who don't know much about the past. They are being fed propaganda, fake news through internet based platforms, through social media, through Facebook, WhatsApp, and all the other platforms. They are being shown videos of anti Sikh riots. They are being shown videos of Operation Blue Star, where Indian forces are attacking, or as it appears, Indian forces appear to be attacking the Golden Temple. These videos are showed to show that India targets the Sikh community, that India oppresses the Sikh community. These lies, these propaganda campaigns are being spread on social media to radicalize, indoctrinate the younger members of the diaspora, along with reactivating the older members. So, as these developments started, we started witnessing many, many incidents. I'll just give you a sample. Babar Khalsa International, which was a dead outfit, all of a sudden revived itself and was planning attacks in Punjab. Presence of these terror elements was detected. Many of the Babar Khalsa leaders who were hiding in Thailand and other Southeast Asian countries, they had become active. Is that clear? I'll give you some more examples. In the previous Cricket World Cup, which was hosted by England, there was a cricket match going on involving India and another country. During this World Cup match, a small aircraft flew over the stadium carrying a big flag calling for free Khalistan. This was in UK. This was a deliberate act. This was caught live on camera. It was beamed around the world to showcase the Khalistan issue and to spread false information again that India was targeting Sikhs, that we should fight for Khalistan movement. UK authorities had failed to prevent this. Khalistani elements in UK had hired a small aircraft. They flew it right over the stadium, displaying a huge banner calling for free Khalistan. We also noticed that in front of Indian High Commission in London, in front of Indian High Commission in Canada, in front of our consulates, protests, rallies started happening. All of a sudden, a call was given for a referendum. a so-called referendum was held in 2020 on social media. Referendum is like an election where Sikh diaspora members were asked by these Khalistani elements to vote, calling for liberation of Khalistan, just to show the world that most of the Sikh community members want independence from India. So, an online election, a so-called referendum, was also held in 2020. So, many such incidents kept happening, but these were all small incidents, right? Few incidents in UK, some incidents in Canada, few planned attempts in Punjab and in other parts of the country and in Southeast Asia, right? But the main concern for Indian intelligence agencies was the rising Khalistani propaganda on social media. I don't know if you've noticed this on Instagram. If you have scanned through or if you have come across these pages, you would know, especially the younger generation of the diaspora. As I told you, they're not aware of the past, the details. Most of their parents, their family members, they're all pro India. But the younger generation have been influenced in a wrong way, mainly through social media. And there is a unhealthy connection which has developed, which you should know about. This social media campaign, which has been going on, the pro Khalistan social media campaign, where they show anti-Sikh riot videos, Operation Blue Star videos to the younger generation to radicalize them. This has merged with the Punjabi pop culture and the gun criminal culture. There is a nexus created here. I'm sure many of you listen to Punjabi songs. They're very popular. There are so many pop stars, singing sensations in India, abroad as well, within the diaspora. Many of these younger generation singers, right, who are influenced by Khalistani ideology, who are impressed by the gun criminal culture which was rising amongst the diaspora youth, they started inculcating these Khalistani symbols into their songs. I'm sure you would have heard about this, right? This would appeal to the younger generation. The mixing of the past, a wrong version of the past, by showing them anti-Sikh riot videos, Operation Blue Star videos, telling them India has always targeted Sikhs. That is one false narrative. Plus, making it cool, making it more hip by promoting it through songs, through pop culture, and glorifying gun violence and criminal violence has created a deadly mixture in Punjab and amongst the diaspora. Even before India could realize the scale of the threat, a lot of developments happened. During the farmers' protest, when Punjabi farmers and even farmers from Haryana, they were protesting against the farm laws. They had some genuine concerns, grievances. They wanted the laws to be revoked. These protests were non-violent protests. It was a genuine organic protest. They had a genuine concern, which the government was looking to address as well. But Khalistani elements, they infiltrated the farmers' protests. They exploited the issue. See, prior to this, they had built up their social media campaign. Within the diaspora, the radicalization was increasing. In India as well and abroad, they were linking the Khalistan campaign with the pop culture, the gun violence culture, creating a new generation of extremists. And when the farmers' protests happened against the farm laws, from abroad, from Western countries, there was a deliberate attempt to twist the farmers' protests and infuse it with a Khalistani ideology. Khalistani elements tried to take over the movement, introducing a violent element as well into the farmers' protests. It tarnished the genuine organic protests of the farmers. In the middle of this was a crisis period. From abroad, radicalized Khalistani members of the diaspora were supporting the farmers, saying that we should extend this to, raise the Khalistani issue and turn this into a Khalistani controversy. In the middle of all this crisis, when India was dealing with farmers' protests and some Khalistani influence on the farmers' protests, there was a development. A new group was created called Waris Punjab De. A new group, an organization, a social organization actually. A social organization was created called Waris Punjab De. Who established this? Any idea? Any idea who set up this group, this social group called Waris Punjab De? It was meant to help farmers who were protesting against the farm laws. Who established this? Amritpal, Panun? No. It was established by a very popular Punjabi singer and actor, Deep Sidhu. Heard of him? He's quite popular, right? So this popular Punjabi actor and singer, Deep Sidhu, he set up a group called Waris Punjab De as a social organization with the intention to help the farmers. So nothing wrong with it. But later, Deep Sidhu was assassinated. Deep Sidhu was killed. By this time, there were several Punjabi criminals who had become notorious. They were running criminal cartels in India with links with Pakistan and in Canada and abroad. There are few major gangs, these Punjabi gangsters. One is the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. Lawrence Bishnoi gang. And he works closely with another criminal called Goldie Brar. The Lawrence Bishnoi gang, with criminals like Goldie Brar, they started extorting money, smuggling drugs again. And these guys were arrested. Lawrence Bishnoi was arrested. He's in a jail even today. Their rivals, such as gangsters like Arshdeep and few others are there. Their rivals, these rival gangs, who are also involved in extortion, issuing threats, involving in property deals, smuggling drugs, these criminal rival gangs, which have influence in Punjab, which have influence in Canada, which have ties with criminals and extremists in Pakistan, they started extending support to pro-Khalistan movement. So some gangsters like Arshdeep and other rival gangs, they have been involved with Khalistani activities. You are again seeing a fusion of organized crime involving drugs and extortion, merging with a radical terrorist ideology. India's suspicion is that Pakistan's ISI is the one creating these links again by working with criminal gangsters. Right? These guys have glorified gun violence. Drugs and gun violence has been glorified in Punjabi songs by certain singers who are aligning themselves with Khalistani ideology. So this has created a deadly combination which influences the younger generation of Sikhs, especially within the diaspora community. Got it? Now, other gangsters like Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Brar, allegedly they are pro-India. Reports indicate that they have been forced to work for India. Indian intelligence agencies are working with them because Lawrence Bishnoi has been arrested. There are criminal charges against him. He's in an Indian jail. Many of his gang members are also arrested. So reports are indicating that these criminal gangsters, some of them are working with India, some of them are pro-Khalistan. Essentially, there is a gang rivalry. Multiple organized criminal gangs have propped up. Some of them are pro-Khalistan elements, aligning with Khalistani terror groups as well abroad, with Pakistani connections and links. Many of them operate in Punjab, they operate in Canada as well, involved in drug and criminal activities and backing Khalistani revival. The other rivals, like Lawrence Bishnoi gang, which has been largely thrown in jail, it's alleged that since we have leverage over them as they are in custody, India is using them as proxies to counter the rising Khalistan extremism, which is propped by other gangster organizations and other Khalistani outfits. So, this is one side of the story where criminal gangs are involved. There is a division between the Punjabi gangsters where some are pro Khalistan, some are forced to be pro India. That is why you witness an increase in gang violence in Punjab, in Canada, and in other parts. Deep Sidhu was killed. Have you heard of Sidhu Moosewala? Very popular again, very popular singer. Assassinated. As these violent incidents kept happening, we started seeing those links between criminal gangs, the rise of Khalistan extremism, how they were getting shelter in Canada, how Pakistan also was involved in backing some of them. So the allegation is that Pakistan is working with few former Khalistani terrorists in Canada, US, and Europe to revive the movement, working with criminal gangsters, linking them with drugs and extortion and weapons. Parallelly, India is countering them by working with the rival criminal gangs, by using the Bishnoi gang to target the other criminal groups. So this is the allegation. So as the gang war was heating up, the gang war, gang violence was increasing, this group called Waris Punjab De, which had been founded by Deep Sidhu, it was taken over by some new guy, a new guy who emerged out of nowhere called Amritpal Singh. He was a nobody, a youngster. He's hardly, I think, 28 or 30 years old. He was a truck driver in Dubai. He comes from rural Punjab. He had migrated to West Asia. He was a truck driver. He was driving trucks in Dubai. During the farmers' protest, he became very popular as an influencer on social media. He spoke against the Indian government. He criticized the farm laws, extended support to farmers' protests. And gradually, as he became popular, he raised the Khalistan issue on social media. He was doing this when he was in Dubai, based out of Dubai. Is that clear? So overnight, within months, Amritpal Singh became very popular, and all of a sudden he was emerging as the face of the rising Khalistani movement, accompanied with gang violence and criminal extremism. So later, Amritpal Singh came to India by 2022. He came back to India. Guess what he did? He appointed himself as the new leader of Waris Punjab De. A social organization founded by Deep Sidhu was taken over by pro-Khalistan elements. Amritpal Singh declared himself to be the leader of this outfit, and it emerged as a Khalistani outfit, a Khalistani extremist outfit. These were very quick developments which was happening one by one. On one hand, social media campaigns were rising. Support was increasing in foreign countries. Pakistan was involved. Criminal gang violence was going up. Punjabi pop culture, some singers were adopting Khalistani symbols and propagating the culture of violence and criminal activities. Because of increasing gang rivalries, many assassinations were happening, where singers like Sidhu Moosewala was assassinated. Reports came up that ISI is working with Khalistani terror groups and some criminal gangs to revive the Khalistan movement in Canada and in other countries. Reports came up that India also has launched a counter campaign working with other rival criminal gangs like the Bishnoi gang to target those criminals who are backed by Pakistan. So this was a deadly mixture of events. So this guy Amritpal Singh, who was literally a nobody, just a truck driver in Dubai, overnight became an influencer. A, he became the poster boy of Khalistan movement because of his rising popularity. He came back to India and appointed himself as the leader of Waris Punjab Day. And after coming back, he underwent a transformation, complete transformation. Indian intelligence reports indicate that he even underwent plastic surgery in Georgia. Why? He wanted to look like Bindranwale. He already speaks very well, just like Bindranwale used to in 1980s. According to Indian intelligence agencies, he was taken to Georgia. By whom? By the ISI. The ISI reportedly was working with Amritpal Singh through a terrorist, a wanted Khalistani terrorist, Avtar Singh Kanda, who was in UK. In UK, there were few Khalistani terrorists that we wanted. Avtar Kanda was one of them. There was one more guy. They were all part of groups like Khalistan Tiger Force, Khalistan Zindabad Force, etc. They were hiding in these countries. So, according to Indian intelligence agencies, Pakistan was working with these former Khalistani terrorists who were reactivated, and they were the ones who had identified Amritpal Singh and his potential. A young face for Khalistan movement. He had been identified on social media. He was being used by the Khalistani outfits based in UK with ISI support, and he was being turned into the next Bindranwale, the future Bindranwale. That is the reason why Amritpal Singh, from being just an influencer, from talking about farmers' protests, started talking about Khalistan ideology, started projecting himself as Bindranwale. And according to reports, he was taken to Georgia for a surgery, a medical plastic surgery to make him look like Bindranwale. He started dressing like Bindranwale. He came back to India in 2022, declared himself as the chief of Waris Punjab Day, and raised the call for Khalistan. So some of his followers and members, they engaged in violence as well. They were arrested by Punjab police. There were few attacks as well which had happened against Punjab police in the last 1.5 to 2 years. The Punjab police intelligence headquarters in Mohali was attacked. Khalistani flags came up in Chandigarh, in Haryana, in Himachal Pradesh as well. Because this is what constitutes the then region of Punjab. So from Himachal to Haryana to Punjab, Khalistani flags, posters were coming up. So some local support was there. These foreign handlers, the former Khalistani terrorists, the new generation terrorists, Pakistan, together were creating a local support, trying to carry out some attacks, spreading flags and posters to instigate the movement in India. So now Amritpal Singh was the poster. He was the poster boy, the face of this revival. So he declared himself as the chief of Waris Punjab. They came to India and triggered violent incidents. So when the police acted against his outfit, many were arrested and thrown in jail. Amritpal Singh led his team of extremists and they attacked the police station. This was last year in 2023, I think February 2023. They were so audacious that they attacked a police station where the members of Waris Punjab, they had been arrested. To get them released from jail in an illegal manner, Amritpal Singh and his followers attacked the police station itself. You can imagine their audacity. So this triggered new tensions in Punjab, and all of a sudden, right, the divisions were opening up again. Some support was building up for Amritpal Singh and the Khalistan movement, and Waris Punjab, they had become the organization which was representing the face of the Khalistan movement in India. Immediately, India began a crackdown. The Indian government and Punjab both decided that Amritpal Singh has to be handled. Waris Punjab Day has to be handled. Things were getting out of hand. So, with Punjab police, the central agencies as well, MHA, IB together, launched an operation to nab Amritpal Singh and his followers to break and destroy Waris Punjab Day. This social organization, born during farmers' protest, had become the face of Khalistan movement. This guy who was a nobody had been groomed by the ISI and former Khalistani terrorists to emerge as the new face of Khalistan terrorism. They were leading violent protests in Punjab, attacking police stations, and they were doing it blatantly, audaciously. So the time had come to act against them. So Punjab police initiated a full crackdown on Waris Punjab Day. The group had to be handled. So initially, some of the members who were arrested, they were already in custody. Now, Punjab police launched an operation to nab Amritpal Singh as well. Because he was the leader. He was the one instigating. He was the one who led the attack on the police station to get these arrested members released. So this operation by Punjab police was not well planned. It was a very poorly planned operation. Internet was suspended. The government of India and Punjab police were working together. They suspended internet and mobile connections because they feared that rumors will spread and violence might erupt. And an attempt was made to capture Amritpal Singh. But this operation went horribly wrong. The Punjab police messed up, they lost the opportunity, and Amritpal Singh escaped. And this was caught on media. It was caught on television. Right? Punjab police tried chasing him. He escaped in another vehicle. He became a glorified hero overnight. He became the hero that some Khalistani extremists wanted. So after escaping, he was on the run for almost 1 month. For 1 month, he kept evading the Punjab police and the Indian intelligence agencies. They kept tracking him. They kept trying to capture him. But he managed to keep away from the Indian forces. Then finally, after all his options were exhausted, he surrendered. And now he has been arrested as well. So now Waris Punjab Day has been broken apart. All the members, including their leader Amritpal Singh, they are all in jail in Assam. They've been moved out of Punjab because the security agencies, they don't want to take any risk by keeping them in Punjab. You never know. There could be attacks to get their release, or it could further increase tensions. So they have been shifted out of here and thrown into a jail in Assam. So this is one chapter. This is one crisis. We initially didn't handle it well. It was messed up. But later, India managed to bring down Waris Punjab Day. The members, all of them have been arrested. Amritpal Singh also has been arrested and thrown in jail. All right. But parallelly, there are other serious developments coming up. So when India was trying to capture Amritpal Singh, when India was cracking down on Waris Punjab Day last year, massive protests erupted in foreign countries. In UK, in USA, in Australia, around the world, in front of our embassies and high commissions, in front of our consulates, the radicalized members of the diaspora, they started a massive protest. As India was hunting Waris Punjab Day members and Amritpal Singh, they were protesting against it, saying that this was India oppressing the Sikh community. In London, our High Commission was targeted. The same guy, Avtar Singh Kanda, who was one of the members involved with Amritpal Singh, he led a violent protest in London targeting the Indian High Commission. They brought down the Indian flag. They disrespected the Indian flag, attacked the High Commission, injured Indian diplomats as well. And the London police failed to prevent it. UK's intelligence agencies failed to protect the Indian High Commission. India was enraged by these developments. In San Francisco, in the US, our consulate was attacked. In Australia, in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Melbourne, in such major cities, pro-Khalistan rallies were held, our embassies and consulates were attacked. So these were deadly developments threatening Indian interests abroad. So this was not just a local domestic threat anymore. There was a clear, organized, planned attempt, involvement of Pakistan, involvement of former Khalistani terrorists and some new members as well, in an attempt to revive this movement. Initially, what was just a social media campaign had now translated into a real-world threat for India. So within India, we arrested Amritpal Singh, wiped out Waris Punjab Day, but abroad, a new crisis was emerging. Right? In Canada as well, rallies were held, protests were held. So this is something that shocked India. Just recently, few months ago, in Canada, for Khalistani elements, they held a rally displaying the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Imagine how horrific is it? And Canada allowed this to happen. Their police, their intelligence agencies didn't prevent it. In the name of freedom of expression, they allowed Khalistani elements on the street to celebrate the assassination of an Indian Prime Minister. So this is where India stepped up the diplomatic counter. We protested against UK, US, Canada, Australia, criticized them for failing to protect our diplomats, our high commissions and embassies, because this is their duty. Under the Vienna Convention, they are bound to safeguard our embassies, high commissions and diplomats. But they were allowing the protests to happen with a direct risk to our diplomats and the embassies and consulates. So following this protest from India, UK, Australia, US, they promised to help India. They promised to work with us because now things are different. We are good friends. We share very close ties with them. They promised to extend support to India to curb these activities. But however, Canada became a problem. Canada has always been a major hub for Sikh diaspora. It has a very large Sikh diaspora community. It has also been a major hub for Khalistani extremists, even in 1980s. Right? So this time, the Justin Trudeau government has instigated India multiple times. I can give you examples again. A few years ago, Justin Trudeau was visiting India. This was in 2018, before all the incidents happened, before Amritpal Singh and before that. In 2018, Justin Trudeau was visiting India, and as part of his official delegation, he was bringing a convicted Khalistani terrorist, Jaspal Athwal. Jaspal Athwal was involved in a terror attack in 1986 in an attempt to assassinate a Punjab minister. Is that clear? He was a member of a terrorist group called International Sikh Youth Federation, the ISYF, which is a designated terror group under UAPA. So Jaspal Athwal, along with other members of ISYF, had carried out an assassination attempt to kill a Punjab state minister in 1986. After this attack, he had run away from India. He had escaped from India into Canada. He had become a businessman. He had assumed a different identity, he had become a businessman. But he was convicted in an Indian court. In this assassination case, which is a terror attack, he has been convicted in an Indian court. He is wanted, meaning if he steps on Indian soil, he has to be arrested. But this time we could not arrest him, as he would have diplomatic immunity because he's coming as part of the PM's delegation, official delegation, as a businessman to India. This was a grave provocation. So India said, you can't bring a convicted terrorist as part of an official delegation. But Justin Trudeau wouldn't listen. And this affected India's ties with Canada very seriously. India downgraded the visit. No major leader met Justin Trudeau. No major minister met Justin Trudeau. Just some interactions took place. Justin Trudeau was humiliated. And even Indian media criticized Justin Trudeau for bringing a convicted terrorist as part of his official delegation. After this, when the farmers' protests were going on, which is an internal issue of India, Justin Trudeau tried to interfere. See, farmers' protest was a genuine issue. Yes, it's up to the Indian government to deal with it. Canada has no business to tell us how to deal with our internal matters. We don't tell Canada how to deal with their internal matters. They'll not like it. Justin Trudeau made statements about the farmers' protests, and this again enraged India. So why was Trudeau doing this? Why is Canada doing this repeatedly? Even in 1980s, it was another Trudeau who had created problems. Basically, his father, Justin Trudeau's father, was the then Canadian Prime Minister in 1980s when Canada refused to cooperate with India, and it had allowed and encouraged Khalistani terrorists on its soil. So why are they doing it? It's purely political. This party depends on votes from the Sikh diaspora. The Trudeau government is a coalition government. It's in coalition with a small party which is headed by leaders of the Sikh community. So Trudeau and his party are desperate for pleasing the Sikh community to get votes. And they think they can do it by backing the Khalistan movement directly or indirectly. I'm not saying Canada directly sponsors them. They wouldn't be doing it. But they tolerate them. They don't act against them. They allow them to continue their activities against India. So this is where India has a major problem, a genuine problem. India had urged Canada multiple times to act against these elements. Canada did not care. Right? So this is how the friction developed between India and Canada. It's not a new issue. What you're reading in newspapers, this is recent. But the issue goes back. In 80s, we had faced the same with the senior Trudeau as the Prime Minister. Now we are facing the same issue again from 2018 and even before that under Justin Trudeau. This is Canadian politics at work, domestic politics. They want to please the vote bank, which is the Sikh diaspora. So they don't act against the community. And it's not that the whole diaspora is part of it. No, definitely not. It's only few members who are radicalized. Even in India, there is no support for Khalistan movement. It's not like before. Very few members are radicalized, but definitely attempts are being made with Pakistani involvement to try and revive the movement again. So the lack of help from Canada and other countries is creating problems for India again. So this is the current situation we are in. All right. Now, apart from all this, there is something else which has happened, which has triggered another round of controversy over the last 8 months. The controversy is that in Pakistan, in UK, in Canada, several wanted terrorists started getting killed. A few wanted terrorists in Pakistan have died under mysterious circumstances. Some of them were Khalistani terrorists. Avatar Singh Kanda, the guy who was responsible for tearing down the Indian flag in London, right, in front of the Indian High Commission, he died in a UK hospital. But it's known that he was suffering from cancer, right? But there is a theory that he has been killed. And in Canada, a major terrorist wanted by India, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the leader of Khalistan Tiger Force, who was based out of Canada, was assassinated. Is that clear? So unknown gunmen had killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. There was one other Khalistani terrorist who died in a UK hospital. It is said it's because of cancer. It was known. Indian intelligence agencies also knew that he was suffering from cancer. And few terrorists died in Pakistan as well. So this gave rise to a theory that India was behind these killings, that India's RAW had restarted the covert campaign to assassinate Khalistani terrorists and anyone who is supporting them. Now, this is a new issue, very recent, sensitive issue. We can't really tell whether India is involved or not. Indian government rejected the allegations. India said, we are not involved. We don't have this policy of killing anyone on foreign soil. We don't do this. But reports are indicating that India might be involved because Justin Trudeau made a public allegation. It's not just some media report and some speculative report. During G20 summit, Trudeau brought up this with Prime Minister Modi. He said, we have evidence to show that Indian agents are involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The ties already took a hit. After going back from G20, Trudeau addressed the Canadian Parliament on the floor of the House. He said Canada has evidence linking Indian agents with the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This was a serious allegation. Canada wouldn't make the statement on the floor of the Parliament without having evidence. Canada said, we have got the evidence from a friendly partner. Basically, it was referring to US. US, Canada are part of an intelligence initiative called Five Eyes Alliance. It's an intelligence gathering initiative. They intercept electronic communication around the world. US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. These 5 countries are part of this alliance. US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. They are part of Five Eyes Alliance. They can intercept any electronic communication, mobile phone calls, internet communication, even satellite communication. So Canada seemed to indicate that one of the Five Eyes Alliance member, which is clearly the US, had passed intelligence to Canada to show India's involvement in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada raised the issue, brought it up with India, and told the world that the Prime Minister himself publicized it on the floor of the Parliament that India was involved. India denied the allegations, tensions increased, and we both have downgraded our relations. India-Canada ties have taken a full hit. In 2018 itself, it had been downgraded, right? But now, after these allegations, the relations have been completely destroyed. We actually were negotiating a free trade agreement. Canada stopped it. India cut down its diplomatic presence. We have stopped issuing visas to Canadians. We asked Canada to take back its diplomats, saying there are too many diplomats in India. So the overall relations have suffered. The visa immigration has been largely shut down, right? So this will affect Indian students, Indian workers in Canada. It will affect the Sikh community to come visit their families in India, right? So this has taken a complete toll on India-Canada relationship. So India also was very aggressive. India aggressively reacted, saying that Canada is the one sheltering terrorists. We don't have a policy of killing terrorists. And India asked for evidence. But after this incident, there is something else which came up. It doesn't end. It's one story after the other. Then there was a striking revelation that came from US. The US revealed, it filed for a case in a court and revealed some very sensitive information that an Indian agent was caught in an assassination plot to kill Gurpant Singh Pannu. Who is this guy? Who is Gurpant Singh Pannu? He is the leader of a problematic, notorious organization called Sikhs for Justice, SFJ. It's based out of US. This guy holds the dual citizenship of US and Canada. He's an American citizen, also a Canadian citizen. So SFJ was like a NGO before, Sikhs for Justice. Basically, he was fighting for justice for the victims of anti-Sikh riots. At one point, he was a lawyer as well. He had filed cases against Indian government, accusing India of genocide, right? And Gurpantwan Singh Panoon is known to Indian intelligence agencies from a long time. Through this group, he was involved in fighting legal cases in US courts against the anti-Sikh riots, alleging Indian government was involved in the anti-Sikh riots. This is something which has been happening from a long time. This is something we could have lived with, we could have dealt with it. But after the recent attempts to revive Khalistan movement, SFJ has turned into a terrorist organization. Gurpantwan Singh Panoon has given open calls for attacks against India. Is that clear? SFJ, which was like a human rights organization, like a NGO, which was only a nuisance for India, a problematic organization, turned into a terrorist organization. He recently gave a call during the Cricket World Cup that there will be attacks during the World Cup final. He said the Indian Parliament will be attacked. He has also said Air India flights will be attacked. He has been issuing open threats. Right? This has become a repeat occurrence. So the last 3-4 years, Gurpantwan Singh Panoon has become dangerous for India. SFJ has become a terrorist organization. We have designated the group also as a terrorist outfit under UAPA. So the US authorities filed a case in a court saying that an Indian agent and an Indian criminal were involved in a plot to assassinate Gurpantwan Singh Panoon. The case predates the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. It's before that. We got to know later after the court filings were filed in the US and it became public. Is that clear? According to US authorities, an Indian raw agent, they don't name him, they have just referred to him with a pseudo name. Apparently, this Indian intelligence officer, right, who is with CRPF on deputation with RAW, they've given this detail as well, that he is working for RAW, he's on deputation from CRPF. They have not disclosed his identity, but he was working with an organized gangster, a criminal gangster called Nikhil Gupta. This guy has been involved in drugs and arms trafficking. He is known to Indian agencies as well. He has been caught by the American agencies in planning this assassination plot. He was trying to hire an assassin to kill Gurpantwan Singh Panoon in New York. The plan was to assassinate him in New York. That's what US is claiming. Is that clear? So how did US get to know about this operation? The US has not revealed anything. Obviously, it's a very sensitive classified operation. But available court documents shows that US was spying on Indian officials. Right? Most countries do it. Even we would be doing it. Even they would be doing it. The US picked up intelligence regarding a planned intelligence operation of India to assassinate Gurpantwan Singh Panoon. Again, I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is what US has informed the court. They had intercepted conversations between this alleged raw agent and Nikhil Gupta, who is a known international criminal. Apparently, this was a contract killing. Raw would not directly execute it. US is saying that a contract was given to this criminal to hire someone else to carry out the killing so that it can't be traced back to India. That's what US is claiming. Now, this guy, Nikhil Gupta, whom did he hire to carry out the killing? He hired an American agent. He didn't know he was a DEA agent. He was led to believe that he is some assassin who will carry out killings for money. That's what he believed. He held many conversations with him. He agreed to meet him in Europe, in Czech Republic, to make the payment. So when he traveled to the Czech Republic, he was arrested. He was picked up. US and Czech Republic are very good partners. So Nikhil Gupta, right, had hired a so-called assassin to carry out this assassination, But he was not an assassin. He was an American agent planted by US intelligence to disrupt this possible Indian operation. So they had collected all the evidence linking Nikhil Gupta with the assassination plot and with a raw agent who had asked him to carry out the contract killing. This is what US has filed in the court documents. This is what we know. Whether it's true or not, we can't comment. This time, India couldn't get aggressive because this is US, not Canada. And they had evidence. If they have gone to court, publicly filed for indictment, Nikhil Gupta is under arrest right now in Czech Republic. He's going to be extradited. The US has pressed extradition. They have an extradition treaty with Czech Republic. Czech Republic being a US ally, they will extradite him to US. So this will maybe give further information. And the American allegation is that their intelligence agencies have solid evidence to link the plot with Indian intelligence agencies. It was through such operations they figured out that Hardeep Singh Nijjar's assassination in Canada was also done by India. This is the basis of their allegation. US passed the information to Canada. That is when Canada escalated the matter. Now, this complicates things for India. As I told you, we cannot comment whether this is true or not. Right? We have no idea. India denies it. India has said we will cooperate with US to investigate. India has said we have no such policies to assassinate people. We don't carry out targeted assassinations. That's not our policy. If someone has done it, if an Indian has been involved, we will investigate. We will ensure justice is done. Because as I told you, no foreign country, even a friendly country, will tolerate targeted assassinations on their soil. That's a breach of their sovereignty. Right? So this has complicated things for India. It's not clear whether India is involved or not, but definitely there are strong evidences to show some involvement at least. Or else US wouldn't have gone to court. They would have settled this with India secretly. The intelligence agencies would have warned each other. That CIA would have warned Roth, see, we got to know that you're doing it. Please don't. Don't assassinate people on our soil. He's an American citizen. They would have warned India. If they have gone ahead and filed a case, it shows that they have solid evidence to get Nikhil Gupta convicted. He will be jailed. And if he speaks further, the links with the Indian agents will probably come out. Right now, US has said we know who is this intelligence officer. They know him. They know his identity. They have not revealed it. So these are very complicated issues, diplomatic issues that are developing because of the revival of Khalistan movement. Right? So let us not speculate whether Roy is involved in these assassinations. Right? Because see, there are criminal gangs as well. The other theory is that Hardeep Singh Nijjar was assassinated because of rivalry, the gang rivalry that exists between different criminal gangs. Some are pro-Khalistan, some are pro-India. They have their own rivalries with regard to their criminal activities. So you never know, a criminal gang would have assassinated Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India may have nothing to do with it. US and Canada might be using this to their advantage to pressurize India on Russia. That's another theory proposed by experts. Experts are saying there may not be Indian involvement. They are trying to turn this, or even if it's true, they are using this evidence to pressurize India on the Russia issue, because we are not criticizing Russia. We are not joining Western sanctions against Russia. We are getting closer to Russia, importing Russian oil. So this potentially could be a geopolitical tool for US to take leverage on India. We are good friends, but US might have unraveled the plot. They might have clear evidence to link this with Raw. Instead of settling it secretly, they're deliberately exposing it to gain leverage on India, to force India to change its policy on Russia. Maybe, we don't know. So these are the theories floating around. So let's not judge, let's not speculate, but we should know what is happening, right? Because our ties with Canada has suffered. With US, relationship has become complicated because of this. US will take this very seriously. If there was indeed an Indian plot to kill an American citizen on their soil, they will act against it. So this could impact the broader relations as well. Even though we are strategic partners, this case could have some impact on our ties. It will also affect the way we counter the Khalistan movement, which is being revived. Understood? So, this is where I would like to stop my discussion. These are all the recent developments which have taken place as far as the Khalistan movement is concerned. Now, please go ahead, ask all your questions, all your doubts. I'll spend some time in answering the questions and then we'll take a short break and we'll come back to start with the next topic. As I told you, previously I was ending Khalistan movement in maximum 1.5 hours because it was a old topic, and the revival movement which had started, it was still a minor threat. But the last 3 years have been different. In last 3 years, I'm spending 4, 5, or sometimes more than that, because the topic has expanded. There are so many developments happening, right? That as UPSC aspirants, you should know all these recent developments, right? The organized attempt abroad, what's happening on social media, the connections between pop culture, organized crime, and the gun culture with Khalistani extremism. Groups like Waris Punjab Day, then the alleged assassinations, the impact on our diplomatic ties with friendly countries like US and Canada. All these are important topics. Got it? So please ask your questions and doubts. We'll spend some time. We'll take a short break and come back and start with the next chapter. Aditya says, sir, couldn't understand Waris Punjab Day fully. See, Waris Punjab Day was a social organization, like a NGO, set up by a Punjabi actor, Deep Sidhu. When? During the farmers' protests. Because farmers were camping on highways without food, without water. So Deep Sidhu set up Waris Punjab Day to help them, to assist the farmers, supply food and water and medicines for them. So he created a social organization. Later, because of criminal rivalries involving different criminal gangs, Deep Sidhu was killed. Waris Punjab Day was a leaderless outfit. It was just a social organization. Nothing wrong with it. But Amritpal Singh, who rose to become the face of Khalistan movement in Dubai, mainly on social media, he came to India and declared himself as the leader of this group. He self-appointed himself that I am the leader of Waris Punjab Day, and he started raising Khalistan issues. Is that clear? So later investigation showed that Amritpal Singh, when he was in Dubai, he was in contact with a Khalistani terrorist in UK. He had links with Pakistan's ISI. ISI was grooming him to become the face of the new Khalistan movement. So he came to India, declared himself as the leader. He underwent a surgery as well to look like Bindran Wale, right? Because that could generate fan following. And he declared himself as the leader of this group and turned Waris Punjab Day into a pro-Khalistan organization. So it became a threat to India. India neutralized the group. We have arrested all the members. All of them are in jail. So Waris Punjab Day is neutralized in Punjab. Ghulam Mustafa is asking, sir, Niger and Panu issue, can it harm India's geopolitical interests and image on the global order? Yes, definitely yes. Because US and Canada will see this as an attempt by India for carrying out illegal killings. This is prohibited under international law. On one hand, we allege Pakistan to be involved in covert activities. If we get caught in such operations, right, and if they have evidence to prove that, that will harm India's image. It could harm our ties with those countries. So this has serious consequences. We have to wait and watch how things will develop. But definitely it will have an impact on our global image and the way we fight Khalistan movement going forward. Pooja is asking, sir, DEA agent, what is it? DEA is Drug Enforcement Authority of the US. Just like we have Narcotics Control Bureau, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Authority, is the US government agency which tackles drug trafficking. So Nikhil Gupta was a criminal involved in drug trafficking, arms trafficking. So the DEA of the US was tracking him. That is how they figured out that he was in touch with an Indian agent taking a contract for killing Gurpantwan Singh Panu. So they put a DEA agent as an assassin. So Nikhil Gupta believed that he was talking to an assassin. He paid a contract, he agreed to meet him. So when he went to Czech Republic to meet him, he was arrested. That's when it was revealed that he was not an assassin, he was a DEA agent working for American authorities. Of course, CIA would have been involved as well, right? It was a US planned intelligence operation to disrupt the assassination plot. So once they figured out that assassination plot is being planned, they introduced an assassin to get in touch with Nikhil Gupta so that he could be arrested to show the links with India. That is the allegation. Dikshit is asking why Shubh also promoted Khalistan. He is referring to another popular singer, Shubh, right? As I told you, there are many singers, many popular celebrities, influencers on social media who have been influenced by Khalistan ideology. Again, it's part of the propaganda, right? They've fallen for the fake news, the misinformation, and some of them have included Khalistani language and symbols into their songs, right? So Shubh later apologized. If you know about it, his concerts were cancelled as he had tweeted in support of Khalistan, right? Later he apologized, saying that he made a mistake, that he's completely pro-India, he doesn't support Khalistan ideology. But as I told you, there is a unhealthy connection that has developed between Punjabi pop culture and songs and uh, Khalistani extremism and gun violence. Vritika is asking, sir, can you please explain shortly how Khalistan movement gained momentum after 15 years on social media? As I told you, post 2010, as Pakistan was under a lot of pressure to not use Lashkar-e-Toiba to attack India, it adopted new strategies. One was to use Jaish-e-Mohammed to attack military bases. The other was to further instigate violence in Kashmir. And third was to revive Khalistan movement. So the ISI has been working in the last 13, 14 years to revive the old Khalistani elements abroad, in UK, in Canada, and in other parts of the world, especially in Australia as well. There are many pro-Khalistan elements who have been revived. And together, they are running these social media campaigns in the last 10, 13 years. Essentially, they are spreading anti-India propaganda, showing that India has oppressed the Sikh community, which is not true. They are misusing the videos of Operation Blue Star, anti-Sikh riots, right? And spreading propaganda amongst the younger generation that, see, this is how India targets the Sikh community. That is why we should fight for Khalistan liberation. And they have generated support on social media. They have even held online elections. In Italy, for example, there is a very strong Sikh community in northern Italy. They held a physical referendum. Some Khalistani extremists, they held a physical election in northern Italy. Italy allowed it to happen, right? In Australia, many rallies have happened. Many Hindu temples have been defaced in US and in Australia, right? So these are very serious, dangerous signs that are coming up. In Australia, there have been clashes between pro-Khalistan protesters and pro-India protesters. When some of the radicalized members of the Sikh community were protesting, right, they were countered by pro-India students in Australia. That led to clash between the two groups, leading to violence in Australia. But Australia is very friendly to India. It has fully cooperated with us. It has promised to work with India to wipe out Khalistani presence in Australia. In New Zealand, same incidents have happened. So friendly governments are working with us. Problem is countries like Canada, to an extent US, because as experts are saying, US is trying to use this geopolitically. UK also promised to help. It helped in the investigation. It allowed NIA to investigate the High Commission attack. And it's helping us to track down all the Khalistani elements in UK. But Canada has been very uncooperative. As I told you, it's Canadian politics. US probably is trying to exploit the issue geopolitically to put pressure on India, as India is not giving up its position on Russia. Maybe, we don't know, right? So these are the attempts. And there is clear Pakistani involvement. Former Khalistani terrorists are involved, and some new age terrorists who have rose to prominence. They are involved. Plus, they are connected with the new criminal gangs. The criminal gang culture is playing a big role here. So various gangs that I was mentioning, you don't have to remember them. UPSC will not ask you. But please note, organized crime is connected again. Criminals who are involved in drug trafficking, arms trafficking, extortion, they are divided. Some of them are pro-Khalistan, some of them are pro-India. So those clashes as well is leading to increased violence. They're targeting each other. Aditya is asking, can we call the liberation of Bangladesh as a type of insurrection? No, that was a liberation movement. Not exactly an insurrection, that was a revolutionary liberation movement. Dikshit is asking, as Amritpal Singh wanted a Sikh state, why he supported ISI? Isn't it obvious? Pakistan has been always supporting Khalistan movement. If Amritpal Singh started voicing the Khalistan issue, obviously ISI would support him and he would work with the ISI. Siddhartha is asking, do we have to remember all the details while writing answers? No, not all the details. That is for your understanding, to make it interesting as well, to help you understand what has happened in the last few years. Remember the broad trajectory. Just remember that attempts are being made to revive the movement. There is Pakistani involvement. What's happened in Canada? What's happening with US? Those basic details are enough. You don't have to go into the details that I mentioned. The names of these individuals, the different gangs I was mentioning. That is just to build the narrative, to make it more interesting. It's not needed. You don't have to remember all the details. Not necessary. Kanchana says USA is very hypocritical. Yes, you are right. Because US itself has carried out assassinations. US has been conducting targeted assassinations. Israel does it. Let's say India was involved. Let's assume India was involved in these killings or in these plots. Right? Other countries have done the same. When their interests were threatened, they have carried out targeted assassinations. That's how governments work. That's how international relations work. So US blaming India for this and trying to leverage this against India is hypocritical. That's why many were shocked why US is going public. They could have settled it behind the scenes, right? So one explanation is that most likely they're trying to leverage this, use this to put pressure on India that, see, we will help you in curbing Khalistan activities, but please you change your position on Russia. Could be. That could be one of the push by US. Next, is there any involvement of China in this? No. China is not really involved in this. Pooja is asking, sir, during emergency, which was imposed by the then ruling government, there was opposition against it. Can that also be called insurrection? Technically, yes. Any opposition against the government, any refusal to obey orders, any disobedience against authority can be called an insurrection. But we don't refer to every incident as an insurrection. The examples I gave you is more than enough. Dinesh is asking a good question. Is Pakistan ready to give their Punjab to Khalistan? No, Pakistan is not so foolish. They know that there is no Sikh presence in Punjab. Very few Sikhs are left behind. They know Khalistan movement will not affect Pakistani side of Punjab. Even though Khalistan is supposed to be a united Punjab land, right? Pakistan knows it will not affect them because they largely control some of the groups. And also in Punjab, in Pakistani Punjab, there is no major Sikh presence. So they know it will not affect them. They are using it only to impact India, to destabilize India. All right. So guys, these were some of the questions. Now let's take a short break. I know we have 1 hour left, but it's a long day for you, for me as well. So 10, maybe 15 minutes break. You tell me how much. A short break. We'll come back and we'll start the next topic. 15 minutes? Okay. No worries. I hope you guys are not bored. I hope you're understanding everything. Let me know if you're facing any issues. We have to cover some topics in detail. That's why I'm spending a little extra time, right? Don't think it's a waste of time. The topics are very, very critical. How else will you develop analysis, your opinions on these complex topics, right? We have to discuss, we have to debate. So Khalistan topic deserves more time because of the new developments, or else we could have ended it quickly. Now we'll come back at 7:15. 7:15 and we'll restart the discussion. We'll take up Jammu and Kashmir. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the session. Now, we have around 45 minutes left. Let's start with the next topic. Let's try to cover as much as possible, and we can pick it up from next weekend. So, the next topic under terrorism module is Jammu and Kashmir. We have to understand the root causes of insurgency and terrorism in J&K, the extent of cross-border terrorism that has emanated from Pakistan, and how India has been dealing with these challenges. Pakistan has posed a major security challenge to India in Kashmir since 1947. As you all know, when India Pakistan were born through the Indian Independence Act, the Indian Dominion and Pakistani Dominion were created, right? Two independent sovereign territories were created. But the same act gave a choice to the princely states. The princely states could either join India or Pakistan, or they could even opt for independence. Now, why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because Jammu and Kashmir was a princely state ruled by Raja Hari Singh. Raja Hari Singh of the Dogra dynasty. So J&K was one such princely state. So many princely states, they joined the Indian Union. Some were hesitant because they didn't want to give up their authority. Some were creating problems. They were looking to join Pakistan, like Nizam of Hyderabad, Nawab of Junagadh, etc. So some had to be convinced, given incentives, some had to be threatened, and in some cases, force had to be used, like how we annexed Junagadh, annexed Hyderabad through police and military action. So as India was consolidating the union, we faced a unique challenge in case of Jammu and Kashmir. Raja Hari Singh, the legitimate ruler at that point, he opted to remain independent. So for a short period after India's independence, J&K was an independent state. Don't get offended by what I'm saying. This is a fact. J&K, the princely state, had opted for independence. It didn't want to join either India or Pakistan. Because Raja Hari Singh, obviously, one, he wanted to protect his own authority. Plus, he was concerned about his subjects. Because Kashmir Valley is Muslim dominated, Jammu is largely Hindu dominated. The other princely region, the princely state, was Ladakh, which was Buddhist dominated, which was also later part of J&K itself. So given this unique demography, Raja Hari Singh was hesitant to join Pakistan, obviously. He knew Pakistan was already a theocratic state. He knew that minorities will have no rights and minorities will stand no chance if ever J&K joined Pakistan. He also had reservations about joining India. Eventually, India would be a Hindu majority state, even though India was secular. And more importantly, he didn't want to give up his own authority as well. So as per the Indian Independence Act, Raja Hari Singh had opted for independence. So technically, J&K was an independent kingdom, even after India, Pakistan were born. But Pakistan kept its eyes on Kashmir. One, because of the strategic location of Kashmir. It's right at the junction of South Asia, Central Asia. Historically, this has been a trade route from the Indian subcontinent. There have been cultural and trade linkages with Central Asia and beyond across the Himalayas via Kashmir. Right? It occupies that strategic location where there is India, there is China. China came up later as well, as it occupied Tibet and Xinjiang and the Central Asia region, and that makes Kashmir strategically vital. Of course, resources, and Kashmir is Muslim dominated. By looking at all these factors, Pakistan kept its eyes on Kashmir. It wanted to capture Kashmir illegally. So Pakistan sponsored a tribal invasion. The Pakistani army, with help of tribal militants, they tried to attack Kashmir and take Kashmir away. So at this point, when Kashmir was threatened, when Pakistani irregular forces were capturing territory, Raja Hari Singh approached India for help. He asked India to come to the rescue of J&K. But then leaders Nehru and Sardar Patel, the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. They said, see, India is ready to help, but J&K is not part of India. We will assist you, provided if J&K accedes to the Indian Union. So, with no other option, Raja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession, and thus J&K fully became a part of Indian Union. Today, what do we say? We say that J&K, as it existed in 1947, entirely belongs to India. Why? Because Raja Hari Singh, the legitimate monarch, the legitimate authority, signed the instrument of accession, acceding the whole J&K into Indian Union. But by then, Pakistan had captured some territories. So India went to war. India deployed the troops, the Indian army, and that is how the first war began. The Indian troops pushed back the Pakistani intruders. We recaptured some of the areas in Jammu, Kashmir sector. But finally, we called for a ceasefire. We didn't want the war to prolong, given the other challenges that India was facing. Naga insurgency had broken out in Northeast. Many other princely states were creating problems. We had major economic and social challenges to deal with. This was not a time for war. Plus, India had faith in the UN, a new institution created after Second World War. So India took the matter to UN, calling for a ceasefire, and the ceasefire was finalized. Of course, later India realized that taking the matter to UN was a mistake because the UN was acting in a biased manner. Why? Because United Kingdom and US especially, right? They were clearly showing a pro-Pakistan inclination and India felt deceived. The Cold War rivalries had begun. The power blocks led by Soviet Union and US and Western countries had been created. While Pakistan was willing to be aligned with UK and of course with Western countries, India was not showing any such inclination. We were being non-aligned. We were taking a neutral stand. So obviously UK and even US, they favored Pakistan, and India did not like how the UN was handling the issue. But eventually, as we respected international law, we had to accept the ceasefire, and that became the temporary de facto boundary, the ceasefire line. The ceasefire line was given legal validity through the Karachi Agreement of 1949. This is what ended the India-Pakistan war, the first war of 1947. Karachi Agreement brought the war to an end, and whatever positions we held, that became the ceasefire line. So Pakistan held on to some areas which we refer to as POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. Right? Now, after this, Pakistan kept making attempts to capture Kashmir or at least destabilize Kashmir. The second attempt was in 1965. Pakistani army again launched an operation to try and capture Jammu and Kashmir from India, triggering the second war. Right? India defeated the Pakistani attempts and the war ended with the signing of the Tashkent Treaty. But throughout this period, Pakistan was not involved in sponsoring insurgency or terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. It was just a border dispute, a direct conflict between the state of India and the state of Pakistan. But post 1970s, that is after the 1971 war, right? Pakistan was seeking revenge against India. It wanted to launch a covert war against India to destabilize the country. It was looking for opportunities where it could sponsor extremist organizations to try and target India by using proxies. But in Kashmir, the opportunity never came up until 1986-87. The opportunity for Pakistan was not opening up because J&K firmly remained with India. By and large, public sentiment was also pro-India. J&K had been given special status under Article 370 to protect the resources and rights of people of Jammu and Kashmir. This was a guarantee that India had given to Raja Hari Singh. When instrument of accession was signed, Raja Hari Singh's only condition was, we need a special protection. Right? J&K should have its own constitution to protect the people of J&K, their land and resources, because we are joining India forcefully. We are joining India under difficult circumstances because Pakistan is attacking us. So give us special provisions and I'll sign the instrument of accession. This was a fair settlement because we have given such special provisions to other northeastern states as well, right? Wherever we have faced separatist tendencies, insurgencies, some special provisions have been given. We'll discuss that in the next chapter. So J&K, which had merged with India, right? The people of Jammu and Kashmir, in general, were pro-India, and there were no separatist tendencies as such until 1980s. There were few elements, very few elements here and there, who were trying to work with Pakistan, who were trying to create trouble. But that opportunity never came up because by and large, J&K was stable, it was peaceful. So what I'm saying right now might shock some of you, right? You can't believe that J&K was a little stable before 1980s. J&K didn't have terrorism, insurgency before that. It was Pakistan creating problems from the outside, maybe some local Kashmiri elements trying to work with Pakistan to destabilize. So we didn't face large-scale insurgency and terrorism. There was no large-scale separatist movement until 1986. So what changed? What happened after that? See, in Jammu and Kashmir, India was preoccupied in militarizing the region. Why? Because of the constant threat from Pakistan. As Pakistan was constantly meddling, right? We had fought 2 wars over Kashmir. The third 1971 war was not about Kashmir, it was about Bangladesh. We had fought 2 wars already. It was looking for opportunities again to target India. So naturally, India ended up militarizing J&K. We got obsessed with security of J&K, deployed more troops. We brought in a lot of restrictions as well. Basic rights were restricted. That's what happens in any conflict zone. Given its proximity to the ceasefire line, which was later renamed as line of control, LOC. This is the temporary border that we have. The ceasefire line, which we had agreed to in 1949, it was later renamed in 1971 as line of control after the 71 war. When Shimla Agreement was signed to settle the 1971 conflict, that's when ceasefire line was renamed as line of control. So given the tensions and the security threats coming from Pakistan, India ended up focusing too much on security and we militarized the region. Whenever you militarize a region, people's rights could get affected because there will be strict security measures. The right to movement will be curbed. There will be curbs on right to expression, right to free press. There will be restrictions on basic rights as well. So this was definitely affecting the people of J&K. The excessive securitization, militarization of J&K was something that bothered people of J&K. On the other hand, development started suffering. Development was not the focus. Welfare was not the priority. Here, the blame was not with India. The blame was with the J&K government. J&K had a separate constitution. The J&K legislature had its own powers to even block laws passed by the parliament. Laws passed by parliament would not directly apply to J&K because of Article 370. Right? Only if it was approved by J&K legislature, only then it could be extended to J&K. So the development and welfare of J&K was largely with the J&K government. But in Jammu and Kashmir, the politics was such that it was dominated by one family and one party. That is the National Conference, headed by the Abdullah family. When J&K merged with India, Sheikh Abdullah, who established National Conference, he was the then Prime Minister of J&K at one point under Raja Hari Singh. Sheikh Abdullah was a pro-India leader. He played a critical role in ensuring that J&K firmly remains with India, and he played a role in integrating J&K into India. So the government of India relied heavily on Sheikh Abdullah and his party to keep J&K stable and firmly under India's influence. But over a period of time, the reliance of India on one leader, one family, one party created resentment amongst the people. The allegation was this was leading to dynastic politics. After Sheikh Abdullah, his son Farooq Abdullah dominated the political scene of Jammu and Kashmir. National Conference would win elections after elections, but there was no development, no welfare, right? It was not satisfying the people of J&K. The youth, especially the next generation, they felt they didn't have good education opportunities, employment opportunities, while the rest of India was growing and thriving. So they felt that India was only interested in the territory of J&K, not in the development of J&K. It had given rise to a sentiment that India is allowing National Conference and Abdullah family to run the administration, right? Without caring about the welfare of the people. On the other hand, India is militarizing the region, curbing rights. So frustration had started to grow by 1980s. By mid 1980s, there was frustration, resentment amongst the Kashmiri youth, especially the younger generation, that their region was not developing, their rights were being curbed. So questions started coming up that why should we remain with India? A few young leaders who rose up during this time, they were already developing separatist tendencies that we should wage a political conflict, if required, a violent conflict, to break Kashmir away from India. But still, the right circumstances did not exist. Then came the elections, the state elections of Jammu and Kashmir, held in 1986-87. During these elections, it was very clear that National Conference and Abdullah family will be defeated, as the people of Jammu and Kashmir resented one party rule. They resented dynastic politics. It was widely believed that Abdullah family and National Conference would be defeated and a new government will come in place. But during these elections of 1986-87, a rumor started spreading that India was manipulating the elections to help National Conference win the elections again. Because there was already a sentiment that India relies on one party and one family to keep J&K under India's control. That sentiment had already been created. Is that clear? There were some genuine developmental issues and issues related to heavy militarization. So in this environment of resentment, a rumor started spreading that Indian government was manipulating the state election to help the same party win again, to continue its control over J&K. This rumor became the trigger. It became the immediate trigger, and all the resentment, the frustration which had built up, it broke out in the form of a violent separatist movement led by Kashmiri separatists. So the local Kashmiri youth and some Kashmiri leaders who were already advocating separatism, right, who were seeking independence from India, they used this as a trigger. The rumors that India was manipulating the elections, right? So this led people of J&K to lose faith in the Indian democracy. They lost faith in Indian elections, in the Indian constitution. And the separatist leaders exploited this and declared a war against India. This was a local separatist movement led by Kashmiri leaders and Kashmiri youth who were Indian citizens. It was just another political struggle. Insurgency was nothing new to India. Separatism was not new to India. We had dealt with many such movements in Northeast India, from Assam to Tripura to Nagaland, right? We had seen similar political insurgencies where locals were demanding independence, mainly because of developmental issues and other rights related issues. So in the initial years, when insurgency broke out here, it was just another political separatist movement. But very quickly, Pakistan saw the opportunity and capitalized on it. This was a golden opportunity for Pakistan. That's what it was waiting for. It had already started backing the Khalistan movement, as we studied. The ISI was already backing Khalistan movement from 1979, 1980s itself. It had already linked Afghan conflict with the Khalistan movement. Remember, I told you how Pakistan diverted funds, weapons from the Afghan conflict towards backing Khalistan groups. How it used the same terror infrastructure to back the Khalistani outfits. So now, when the problems came up in Kashmir, this was the golden opportunity Pakistan was waiting for. Pakistan had been obsessed with Kashmir from 1947. So Pakistan couldn't have asked for anything better. The rise of local divisions, the rise of local separatist movement, led by a new generation of Kashmiri leaders, was the perfect opportunity for Pakistan to meddle in Kashmir and to destabilize Kashmir further. These separatists were immediately given support by Pakistan. Violent insurgent groups had been formed, like JKLF, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, and other groups like Al Badr. These were local Kashmir based extremist groups that had taken shape, right? All these outfits, including political separatists who were raising a political voice for separatism, they were all sheltered by Pakistan, given support in POK across the line of control, and Pakistan started sponsoring the separatist insurgent movement. Is that clear? This is how the violent insurgency broke out, the militancy broke out in Kashmir. They started targeting Indian forces. Very quickly, things were changing and violence was increasing day by day. This was a time where we were already dealing with Khalistan movement and Northeast insurgency and Naxalism. Then Pakistan did something else. It introduced a communal angle into the conflict. It introduced a religious angle into the Kashmir conflict. To begin with, this was not about religion. This was about Kashmiris fighting for their own rights. That's what they believed in, right? Some of the separatists, that's what they believed. They believed they had no future with India. They wanted to liberate the region, make it independent. Because they felt that Raja Hari Singh never consulted the people. India never consulted the people here, right? That sentiment was always present. Now that the area was not being developed and one party, one family were running a corrupt government, the frustration had built up amongst the youth. They were the ones who rebelled and started the separatist insurgent war. India could have dealt with this. We could have managed this if there was no Pakistani interference. So Pakistan cultivated these separatists, gave them support, gave them all the funds, weapons, and training to scale up the movement. Along with that, Pakistan did something else. It added a communal angle, a religious angle was introduced by bringing Afghan Mujahideen fighters into Kashmir. Foreign terrorists were introduced, right? This was done in the name of religion. As I told you, the separatist movement, the insurgent movement which had broken out, essentially was a political separatist movement. Of course, there would be a religious angle to it, just like there is a religious angle with Khalistan movement. But India could have managed the threat. But Pakistan brought a deeper religious angle to it by bringing Afghan Mujahideen fighters. Afghan and Pakistani terrorists were brought and introduced into Kashmir to target India. Because by 1987-88, Soviet forces were almost defeated. Afghan Mujahideen was winning the war. By 1989, Soviet forces retreated as well from Afghanistan. So these Mujahideen fighters who were free, who were controlled by the ISI, they were channeled and diverted towards Kashmir. The same funds, weapons, and terror infrastructure was used to back Kashmiri separatist groups as well. And Pakistan went one step ahead and set up dedicated Kashmir-centric anti-India groups. It created new Kashmir-centric anti-India terror outfits, such as Hizbul Mujahideen, Harkatul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Toiba, and later in 99, 2000, Jaish-e-Mohammed. Jaish-e-Mohammed was created much later. So Pakistan not only sheltered JKLF, Al Badr, and other groups, it sheltered Lashkar-e-Toiba, created a new outfit. Lashkar comprises of Pakistani terrorists as well, along with few Kashmiri extremists. Hizbul Mujahideen also consists of few Kashmiri elements with Pakistani terrorists. So such specific Kashmir-centric groups were created by Pakistan, and it gave a safe haven for them. Diverted the Afghan funds, weapons, used the same terrorist infrastructure present along the Af-Pak border to train these terrorists and infiltrate them across the LOC into Jammu and Kashmir. This was cross-border terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism against India. So as Pakistan created more radical groups, more religious fundamentalist groups, it used these terrorist organizations to target the religious minorities, that is the Kashmiri Pandits. This is how Pakistan added a communal color to Kashmir conflict. By bringing foreign terrorists from Afghanistan and Pakistan, by creating new terrorist organizations which were more radical, which were rooted in religious fundamentalism, and by using them to target Kashmiri Pandits, Pakistan essentially made this into a Hindu-Muslim issue. To begin with, this conflict was not a religious conflict. It was not supposed to be a Hindu-Muslim issue, right? Yes, Kashmiri elements were involved. They were leading a separatist insurgent war. But once religious minorities were targeted by these terrorists, it acquired a communal color. Pakistan knew what would happen if religious minorities are targeted. See, for centuries, Kashmiri Pandits, who are essentially Hindu Brahmins, they have lived with communal harmony with Kashmiri Muslims. That way, Kashmir was a very progressive region historically. It was a trading route, a major hub of intellectualism, art, etc. So from many centuries, Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Muslims have lived side by side. Like one family, they have been good to each other, friends with each other. There has been communal harmony between them. This harmony was destroyed by Pakistan. It was a deliberate strategy, a strategy of Pakistan and the extremist elements. They deliberately targeted the Kashmiri Pandits. They carried out few targeted killings. Few Pandit families were killed and open threats were issued for the Pandits to leave Kashmir Valley. This divided the Kashmiri community. Divisions came up between Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Pandits because of the targeted communal violence. The moment this was done, it triggered an exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. They became internal refugees in the country. They became internally displaced people. Right? They had to pack up everything, leave their houses, their property behind, and abandon their homeland and leave Kashmir, or else they would be killed by these terror groups. So that is how these terrorist outfits, with the backing of Pakistan, made this into a religious conflict, added that Hindu-Muslim angle to it. Why? Because now the issue will reverberate across India. Across India, the sentiments will be triggered. The Hindu-Muslim communal divisions will be opened up. This was a time where, in India, communal politics had started. By late 80s, communal politics had taken root across the country. Pakistan knew the impact. By targeting Pandits, by driving these divisions, it turned the Kashmir issue into a Hindu-Muslim issue. Across the country, the issue had an impact, and even today, people across India connect with what happens in Kashmir. That is why there is a bigger reaction across India whenever there is an attack in Jammu and Kashmir. People don't have the same reaction for a Naxal attack. Right? In other parts of India, there is no outrage for an attack in Northeast India. Right? Even with Khalistan movement, people don't connect with it. Why? Because in other parts of the country, that connection has not been established. It is some faraway conflict happening somewhere. But the targeting of Kashmiri minorities, the religious angle it was given, how it was turned into a Hindu-Muslim issue, right? It spread across the country, and now people started looking at Kashmir conflict as a Hindu-Muslim issue. It gave rise to an impression that it's only Muslims who are fighting for separatism. They are the ones who have joined Pakistan for waging a terror war against India, and minorities are under threat. So this divided the country as well, right? You can feel the impact even now. Even now, the Kashmir issue is seen as a communal issue. It's seen through the communal angle, that it's a Hindu-Muslim issue essentially. To begin with, it wasn't a communal issue. So this is how Pakistan destabilized India, right? By exploiting the divides in Kashmir. It not only destabilized Jammu and Kashmir, it destabilized the whole country on religious lines. It further widened the Hindu-Muslim divide across the country. Can you see the impact? This is what Pakistan had committed, that we will bleed India through 1,000 cuts. We will bleed India in Punjab, in Northeast India, in Kashmir, and we will spread the impact across the country as well by turning this into a communal war. So, as the divisions opened up, the communal divisions opened up, right? Pakistan succeeded. Its covert war was succeeding because it was destabilizing India on religious communal lines. So, this period was very dangerous for India because from late 1980s to 1990s, all the way till 2003, this is the period where we saw the maximum violence in Kashmir. Insurgency, terrorism increased during these 15, 16 years. It started by 1987, went on till 2003. For almost 16 years, there was large scale insurgency terrorism backed by Pakistan. There were Kashmir based groups like JKLF, Al Badr. New groups were created based out of Pakistan like Lashkar, Hizbul, and others. Support was being drawn from Afghanistan Pakistan border areas, and foreign terrorists were also being introduced. So, this increased the scale of violence. Right? The Indian army was targeted, multiple attacks against Indian forces, attacks against government institutions. So, as a result, the security crisis escalated for India, and this was the most brutal decade in Kashmir. 1990s was the most brutal in the terms of violence and killings that happened in J&K. So, India responded immediately by bringing AFSPA. In late 80s, as insurgency broke out, as Pakistan got involved, right? J&K was declared as a disturbed area, and Armed Forces Special Powers Act was extended. So J&K was the last place where AFSPA was imposed. First it was Northeast India, then it was Punjab, and then it was Jammu and Kashmir. So under the special powers, the Indian Army was given the lead role to engage in counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency operations. Is that clear? Indian Army takes the lead here in counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency operations because of the threat coming from Pakistan. Pakistan aids the infiltration. It not only trains the terrorists and gives them funds and weapons, it helps them cross over the LOC into India. Pakistani troops, they deliberately open fire against Indian positions to distract them, especially during night time. And during this exchange of fire, the terrorists will sneak across the LOC and cross over into India. We actually have a ceasefire agreement, but Pakistan violates it deliberately. It breaks the ceasefire deliberately, opens random firing against Indian positions, and that too during night time. So our troops get distracted. BSF, which is guarding the LOC, BSF is the border guarding force. Even Indian Army is present in forward locations. So they get distracted, and by exploiting this gap, the terrorists will sneak into Jammu and Kashmir. They have also dug underground tunnels from where they tunnel through and cross the LOC into India. And these terrorists who cross over, right, they are heavily armed. They have local support as well. Some local elements will be supporting them. Sometimes they take shelter, they hide their weapons, they collect more weapons, and then carry out large attacks against Indian forces. So to deal with this crisis, India brought AFSPA, gave Indian Army the lead role, and the Northern Command, which is headquartered at Udhampur, leads this counter-terrorist, counter-insurgency operation against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Is that clear? The Rashtriya Rifles, the RR, along with other units of Indian Army, which come under the Northern Command, they fight this battle against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Now, after 2003, things started changing. After 2003, there was a lot of US pressure on Pakistan and India to reduce their tensions. In fact, from 2001 itself, the US was putting pressure on India, Pakistan to reduce their tensions. Can someone tell me why? Why would US do that? Why would US pressurize India, Pakistan after 2001 to reduce tensions between them? Any particular reason? Very good. Nikhil has given the right answer. Even Pooja. The 9/11 attacks. Who carried out the 9/11 attacks? Al Qaeda under Osama bin Laden. Where was Al Qaeda based out of? Afghanistan. Who was ruling Afghanistan in 2001? Taliban. And who has control over Taliban and Al Qaeda? Pakistan. Without Pakistan's help, US couldn't have targeted Taliban and Al Qaeda. Immediately after the 9/11 attacks, US declared war against Al Qaeda and Taliban and invaded Afghanistan. So US desperately needed Pakistani assistance, help from Pakistani army and Pakistani ISI to target Al Qaeda and Taliban following the 9/11 attacks. So if Pakistan is distracted with India, if tensions prevail between India and Pakistan, then Pakistani army and ISI may not help US in Afghanistan. Can you understand? Because just before this, Kargil war had taken place. After the 9/11 attacks, parliament attacks occurred, leading to a war-like situation. So US realized that if Pakistan is distracted with India, if tensions are high between them, Pakistani army and ISI will not cooperate with US because they can't drain resources towards Afghanistan. They have to focus on India, towards the eastern borders of Pakistan. Pakistan will pull all troops from west, from Afghanistan border towards, and redeploy them towards the eastern border towards India. So US would not like that situation. The US wanted the Pakistani army to seal the Afghan border to ensure that Taliban and Al Qaeda terrorists don't cross over into Pakistan. So because of that, US was putting a lot of pressure on both India and Pakistan to settle the differences, reduce the tensions. So this led Pakistan to reiterate the ceasefire commitment. The 1949 ceasefire commitment was reiterated by both India and Pakistan that we will respect the ceasefire. Parallelly, Indian Army had carried out a major operation, Operation Sarp Vinash. It was a counter-terrorist operation of Indian Army in 2003, through which more than 100 terrorists were eliminated. It was a tremendous success for RR, for Rashtriya Rifles. Through intelligence-based operations, with help from IB, RAW, Indian Army had neutralized more than 100 terrorists backed by Pakistan under Operation Sarp Vinash. So because of these two developments, the scale of terrorism started declining in Kashmir between 2003 all the way until 2018. We saw a reduction in the scale of violence. On one hand, US had pushed Pakistan to uphold the ceasefire with India and reduce the terrorism in Kashmir. Parallelly, India had destroyed the terror infrastructure and targeted several terrorists. So because of this, violence went down, at least for some period. From 2003 to 2008, we saw a reduction in terrorism, cross-border terrorism. It would happen every now and then, but not as frequently as it was in 1990s. Then, between 2008 and 2012, it again tried to increase terrorism, and it even tried to create mob violence at the street level. Whenever Indian forces would target the terrorists, right, when they were killed, local Kashmiris would be encouraged by Pakistan to protest, to engage in violence against these killings, to create a security law and order situation. Then again, we saw a reduction from 2012 to 2018. There was some reduction, but Pakistan kept trying new tactics to create troubles for India in Kashmir. I'll give you an example. Have you heard about Burhan Wani, a terrorist called Burhan Wani? He was a young terrorist. Several college students in Kashmir were radicalized mainly on social media. I'm talking about 2015, around that period. We have already studied that after Mumbai attacks, Pakistan was using new tactics. One, it was using Jaish-e-Mohammed for attacking military bases of India. Second, it was trying to revive Khalistan movement. Third, it was looking to create trouble in Kashmir. So, as part of the new strategy, Pakistan wanted to groom younger terrorists in Kashmir and create homegrown movements. So, terrorists like Burhan Wani and others who were college students, they had been radicalized and they were trying to target Indian troops and engage in terrorism against India. So, Indian army killed Burhan Wani in a counter-terror operation. Burhan Wani was killed. Is that clear? Then, you know what happened? Large-scale mob violence began against the Indian army. Essentially, people were trying to support terrorists like Burhan Wani. This was a retaliation for Burhan Wani's killing. So this was a new tactic of Pakistan again. The ISI was trying to exploit these issues, triggering mob violence, encouraging local mobs comprising of civilians to disrupt Indian army operations. So frequently these incidents started happening in 2015, 2016. Let's say Indian army is conducting a live encounter. It has received intelligence that terrorists are hiding in a particular house or in a forest. Immediately they will launch an operation. And once the locals get to know that something is happening, local mobs will assemble to block the Indian operation. These are civilians, right? They would be led by some leaders who are working with ISI. ISI would be paying them. They will assemble the mobs comprising women and children as well. And they will try to block the Indian operation, a live encounter. Imagine how risky it is. It is risky for those civilians and for our soldiers as well. And if a terrorist is killed, then the civilians will carry out violence on the streets. They will try to pelt stones. Stone pelting incidents increased against Indian troops. So civilians, which includes women, children, and old people as well, right? These people were misled by some elements working for ISI. The extremists working for ISI, they would instigate the mobs. They would use money as well to influence them and assemble the mobs and start pelting stones against Indian army during live encounters or after the killing of terrorists. These frequent incidents were a deliberate strategy. It was drawn from Palestine. In Palestine, Palestinians had done something similar. Whenever there were counter-terror operations done by Israel, where few Palestinian terrorists were killed, Palestinians would deliberately mob Israeli forces, pelt stones against them. They'll try to disrupt the operations because they know that Israeli forces will retaliate. They wanted the retaliation. Why? When forces retaliate against civilians, what will happen? Civilians will get injured. Civilians might get killed. Women, young children, or old people who are part of these protests, if they get badly injured and killed, imagine how it looks in front of the world. It can be turned, the narrative, the story can be turned that the forces are committing human right violations. This is what Pakistan has been trying to do. It tried this in 2008, 2010 as well, under the Manmohan Singh government. It tried this again under the Modi government, where it would encourage mobs to disrupt Indian army operations, to target Indian army with stone pelting, so that they know Indian army will respond. Right? Even CRPF is deployed here in Kashmir for mob control. CRPF also is involved here in counter-insurgency operations. It will help the Indian army. And it also deals with such mob violence incidents. So when mobs block the Indian forces, when they start throwing stones, obviously the forces will try to protect themselves and they will use some methods to control the mob. They'll fire tear gas, they'll use water cannons, and in some cases they might open fire as well, right? And Indian Army started using a weapon, a controversial weapon called a pellet gun. A pellet gun, it fires many small metal pieces. Usually it's not fatal, it will not kill the person, but the pellets will cause injuries, serious injuries. The mobs will, they will get injured when pellets are fired. Usually it doesn't kill the person when fired from a far distance. Lot of metal pieces are projected which can puncture your body, leading to injuries, and the mobs will disperse. This is a controversial way of controlling mobs. It's a non-lethal method, but it's very controversial as it causes a lot of injuries. But if the pellet gun is fired from a close distance, right, it can kill the person as well. So when Indian Army started using pellet guns to disperse the mobs, it caused very bad injuries amongst women and children and old people, right? And some civilians were killed during these incidents where fire was opened by the Indian forces and even by the CRPF. So these pictures, these visuals are captured and it is beamed by Pakistan around the world. Pakistan will take those images. Imagine how it will look, a child, right, a minor child with full of facial injuries, because pellet guns will puncture your body. You might lose your eye. If the metal piece strikes your eyeball will pop out. These images, if they are captured, right, obviously media will capture it. Pakistan will flash those images around the world showing that Indian Army is committing human rights violations. That's what Pakistan did. This was Pakistan's new strategy in Kashmir. Deliberately trigger mob violence, disrupt the counter-terror operations, trigger the Indian forces to act against the mobs so that there will be some kind of violations, injuries, or even death, and use that information, use that visuals and pictures, bring it up at UN, bring it up at OIC to accuse India of committing human rights violations. This will further divide the people of Kashmir and the Indian state. Right? When children are killed, when women or old people are killed during these incidents, it will create more resentment, more hatred, and it perpetuates that cycle of violence which Pakistan wants. So this is the extent to which Pakistan has gone. Right? It's honestly very sadistic what Pakistan has done. It hasn't stopped. It has no boundaries, no limitations. It has done everything possible to destabilize Kashmir and create problems for India. And who's the most affected? People of Kashmir. Right? Yes, there might be support for separatism. There might be support for terrorism as well. There might be pro-Pakistan elements. But doesn't mean everyone in Kashmir is the same. Right? People of Kashmir have suffered for decades in this conflict between India and Pakistan takes the big blame. So in the next class, let us discuss how India has dealt with this crisis. What measures have we taken? What are the new trends? Especially after Article 370 was revoked, there are some new trends that we are noticing. Let's discuss in the next class. I'll explain India's strategy as well, the security approach, the developmental welfare approach. So we'll discuss all these points and end this topic, and we'll head to the last part, which is counter-terrorism by India. So I think for today it's enough. I hope you've understood the basics of terrorism in Kashmir and how Pakistan has played a direct role over the years in instigating this war against India. So this is the broad trend from 1986 to 2018. Is that clear? Remember the broad trend, that is enough. From 87 to 2003, that was the peak violence. Violence has reduced after that comparatively, right? Because of the ceasefire agreement, because of international pressure as well. But every now and then, Pakistan has tried to increase infiltration, increase terrorism in J&K. And a new tactic is that it's using mob violence to push Indian forces to target civilians and use that to internationalize Kashmir issue and bring pressure on India. So this is what you should understand. In the next class, I'll start with 2019, the changes that have happened, how it impacts the security situation, and what new developments have taken place. Because recently there have been some new developments which is of importance. We will study this in the next class, and we will wrap up this whole topic in the next class. Now let us see if there are any remaining questions and doubts, and after that we can end the session today. Pooja is asking, sir, Naxalism is same as insurgency? Naxalism is a type of insurgency. Is that clear? If you look at how Naxals operate, what is their philosophy, what is their doctrine, depending on that, we can say that Naxals are essentially insurgents. But Indian government has labeled Naxals as terrorists because of the kind of threat they have posed. Dinesh is asking, sir, please repeat why civilians are pelting stones. Because see, due to excessive security presence, due to controversial laws like AFSPA, there has been a divide between local people in Kashmir and the Indian troops. Locals don't trust the Indian troops entirely. So when there is an encounter going on, when terrorists are killed, some local supporters instigate the local people to protest, to carry out violence on the streets, to oppose the operations of Indian forces. Who's behind this? Pakistan is behind this. It's using its agents and elements who are supporting Pakistan to instigate the mobs to act against Indian army deliberately. It's a strategy of Pakistan. Why? Because Indian forces will also retaliate against the mobs, leading to injuries and deaths. And later it can internationalize that issue, take those images to UN and OIC and show that India is violating human rights. Right? So it brings international pressure on India. That's the strategy Pakistan has followed. Aditya is asking, can we call Taliban as Naxals? No. How can you call Taliban as Naxals? There's nothing in common between them. Naxals are Maoists, which is a left-wing extremist outfit. Taliban is a right-wing extremist organization. Taliban can't be called as Naxals. Kanchana says pellet guns were used in Manipur also, sir. Recently, students were injured severely. Yes, during recent ethnic violence in Manipur, which we will study in the next class, even there the controversial pellet guns were used, causing severe injuries to civilians. So it's a very controversial mob control weapon to be used. Pooja is asking, sir, was Sheikh Abdullah anti-India? No, 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 no. Sheikh Abdullah was actually pro-India. He played a big role in keeping Kashmir with India and in influencing the local people as well to support India. So Sheikh Abdullah has never been anti-India. That's not the case. Later, he became hated by Kashmiris because they felt that there was no development happening under national conference. It was a developmental issue, a political issue, right? Sheikh Abdullah was never anti-India. Kanchana is asking, sir, did Pakistan train and provide weapons to Kashmiri separatists also? Yes. Pakistan was the one which gave funds, weapons, and training to Kashmiri separatists and terrorists. All right. So, guys, I think it's enough for today. It's already been a long day. I know you guys will be tired. Let's end it over here. We'll pick it up in the next class. We'll wrap up this chapter and then take a look at Northeast insurgency. So I hope you guys have liked the classes this weekend. I hope it's been interesting. I hope you have learned whatever I have taught. I hope you've understood everything. Please let me know in the comments. So I'll see you next weekend. Till then, take care. Have a great day. And by the way, happy Makar Sankranti, Pongal, Gudi Parva, Lohri, whichever festival you're celebrating, right? So I'll see you on the next weekend. Till then, take care. Good night.